Hey everyone, welcome to the new tutorial. So today we're going to do data storage and profile service. So by having a look at this website here, we've got save your data with profile service, Datastore module. This is pretty much the latest and greatest Datastore module, and obviously it's by Lawless, and I love his work a lot. So this is pretty much Datastore to with a lot of upgrades. So there's caching. So if you're joining and leaving servers really quickly, it will load you much quicker since it sends it to all servers and a bunch of other stuff. And it's pure tables, and it has anti-duplication checks. So if players are trying to duplicate items, they can't, since this will check for duplications. So, actually there's already, yeah, so this is personal module, easy to learn, forget, it's very easy to learn, I can say that. Massive scalability, yep. Session locking, yep. So that's something that has session locking. So if you try, I'm gonna put this, if you try join too quickly, it will say that your profile is already loaded, and then you get kicked. And then here we've got meta tags and global update. So they're more advanced things, but meta tags, for example, contain the old data templates. So if you want to compare template tables, you can. And then if you've got like your data completely revamped, you can have this like go from your old data to your new data, so it can transform the data. And then this has profile object abstraction, so it doesn't require just a player for it to work. You can do it with other things. So this is very nice to have, and I highly recommend it for all your works. I use it for everything now. And yeah. So here what we're going to do is create a basic profile service data store for your game. So I'm going to do this in two ways. For now, I'm going to have it so it can load pure tables, and then we'll have like maybe a quick script to send it to the client. And then next time what I'm going to do is do it with leader stats, which it isn't that hard to change it around. But actually I might be able to do it. I'll see how time goes, but I might be able to do it now. But I'll add leader stats to it. So like for example, your cache would show up on the leaderboard, and when it changes, it will change in the leaderboard too. Since they're not directly related, you could do something else for it. But here, what I'm going to do is just get the module. So under this link, it's open source, the Roblox library. Click that. You'll have the profile service here. Just click on purchase, buy, whatever it is. Obviously, you want to leave a like. I'm going to favorite that too. And you want to run to your toolbox. This 4-button one is your inventory. You want to go, I believe my models is actually the right one. And you want to find Profile Service by Lawless. So make sure it's like by Lawless so it doesn't have a backdoor. And that's this one here. And what you want to do is, I'm going to create a folder inside Replicate Storage called Modules, and I'm going to put that inside there. And then I'm going to have another module, and I'm going to call it Systems. This is optional. You can just do it in a normal script if you want, if you're going to have everything managed by one script. But I'm going to have a module. And I'm going to call this Data Service. So here I'm just going to put module, and we're going to do everything in this module. So how modules work is you need to require the module for it to work. So I'm going to make a script here. I'm going to call it init for initialization. I'm going to get server storage, and I'm going to go systems folder equals server storage, wait for child systems. And then I want to require the data service, not profile service, since in this data service module, I will be requiring the profile service. So we'll do local data service equals systems folder, wait for child data service, and since it's a module, we're going to require it. Require that one. And then I'll have a init function for initialization. So what I'll have is all the variables load first, and then I can manually activate the data script. So this is all we need for the normal script if you're doing it my way. Otherwise, you don't have to do any initialization function in here. I would have done a side-by-side, but it would be too complicated if somebody new to scripting and Datastore wants to try and look at what I'm doing. So for the moment, we're going to have a look at this code here. We've got profile template. So this is pretty much what the default data looks like. Now, an important thing is updating the template will not include template values in existing player profiles. So that's saying if a player already has a loaded profile, so if they're not creating a new profile from this template, the profile will not automatically check for new values inside this template. So we need to do it manually. So we can add that inside one of the functions below. I'll show you how to do it in a minute. But for now, I'm going to copy this profile template. And I'm going to put this at the top of this data service script. So for this one, I don't need items. What I'll do is hash gems, and we'll have login times. I'll also have a total game time. So total time playing the game, number of times logged in, we'll have, and then this is just games. So get analytics, and then we'll go game values. You don't need analytics, that's up to you. I have done more advanced analytics unlike this, so this is just kind of normal. This is like entry-level analytics, just knowing when they play in login times. Or the amount they play, I should say. Anyhow, continuing on. So that's the profile template. That's what everybody gets at the start. And then what I want to do is require this profile service. So what I'm going to do next is, actually I might do it before the template. So local server modules. I need server storage. Game get server storage. Server modules equals server storage. Wait for child modules. So what we're doing is we're getting the server storage here. We're going to wait for the modules to appear. So we need to make sure we wait because the game may not have loaded the folder yet. And this script may have ran before this modules folder has replicated to whichever server this is running on. So if that's the case, we need to make sure that it's there first, and then we need to get the profile service in here. So we need another wait for child for this profile service module, but we do want to wait for it to appear. So local profile service equals server modules, wait for child profile service. Now, since it's a module, we need to require it like we've done up here. So we'll put that in parentheses, require. And now we ask ourselves, what does that return? So that returns a table. So similar to this module, it returns a table. So this one returns a module, which is this table here. And this table here has the initialize function in it. So that's why we're able to call it here. Now, if we have a look at profile service though, if we type return, we want to go to the very last one, which is profile service. And this is what it's returning. So as you can see, there is a lot of relations using this profile service. So we know for sure that's returning profile service, but we don't really know what's in there. So this is why we're following Lawless's guide. So that way we know what we're doing with it. But there is other things here like get profile store, is live, and yeah. That's a really nice one there. So next, since we know that we're getting the profile service, we can get a profile store. So this is pretty much like get data store for data service. So we'll need that to save and load data. So we'll need that. Make sure it's your profile template. So what we have here is the profile key or profile store key, which is equal to the game data. Oh wait, was it? Get data store key. So this is pretty much, you could say it's pretty much the same. There is different things about it, but that's what it is. It's the get data store equivalent. So for this one, since we're doing player data, I'll put it player data 1. That way, if you want to increment it and reset everyone's data, you can do that. And then I call this game profile store usually, not profile store, because I might have other things in the game which have their own profile store. And we'll be using this to save and load data. Next, we've got profiles. So this is all the loaded profiles. So it's important that we have that. So how this stores it for this tutorial code here, or this example code, is they've got the player instance as the index. So this is a dictionary. And then they've got the value as their profile data. Now their profile data has many things inside it, but it does have a data table, which is like the actual player data, which is this stuff here. So what we want to do is get that data table and copy it to the client, so the client knows what their data is, in case they need to use it. So here, there's a couple of functions. We're going to skip through these and go straight to the player added. So I'm just going to copy the function name. I'm going to have it outside the module, since we don't want anyone to actually have editing privileges of the data. We'll only allow get data using this module. So we've got player added. I'm just going to see how the function is called first. So if we scroll down, we have player added here. We've got player added here. So we have a for loop that goes through every player already in the game. So this is in case players have joined the server earlier than the script is run or ran. So that's very important that we actually have this. So especially in a case like this where we're initializing it, if we don't have this line, anyone who's already in the game, for example, the first player, their data will not load if we don't have this line, so we need it. And then that's the same here. We've got player added, so any new joining players, we want them to load their data. Now, obviously, we need the player service, so let's do local players equals game get service players. And then we also want player removing. So when the player is removing, we want to release their profile. I won't worry about this too much, understanding this, but basically it's releasing their data from the game. So that way other games can load it. So that's what session locking is. This is how you release the lock. And then in the loading one, the session is locked for other servers. So they cannot load the player's data. So let's say you have an admin panel and you try edit a player's data by loading it, it will kick the other player out of the game. So that's just something to note. What you can also do is use messaging service to tell the other server that has the player's data loaded to do something to that player's data, if that's what you're trying to do. But for now, let's just keep going with this. So next we have where we actually load the data. So the big bulky code of the whole thing. So this here is the player's profile. So this is what their data is stored inside. So we're just going to keep following the tutorial. So here, this is the key for the data. So I'm actually going to change this to toString player user ID. So this has to be a string. So using toString player user ID, we can change it to a string. We need to check if the profile is not nil. So in case of, for example, the player's been kicked, there's it couldn't load the data from the data service, all of that sort of Datastore service. So all of that, we need to still make sure the profile is not nil. So that's also why we have this if statement up here. So if this did not work, then this will make sure when the player is, for example, kicked, it will not release the data, or it won't try to release a nil value, since there'll be no profile. But here, so if we have a look if statement there. We're going else. The profile could not be loaded, possibly due to Roblox servers or some other thing preventing it. So we're going to make sure we add that. Click failed to load data. So this is just a kick message. You can have your own thing here. One player added. So you can have this as like the message code. So if you in your game you have you ask the players to send any kick messages to you or to the developers of the game, you can have codes or code names, for example this, to determine where they got kicked and what might be the reason. So in this case, if it's some player added 1, the code message, it just means their profile didn't load, and we can just tell them to rejoin. But obviously there's other ways, so there's one there, and then yeah. So next, what we've got this add user ID here. So I think it's Europe. I can't remember where it is, but in case the player wants to delete their Roblox data, you have to comply and put this in this. So you pretty much just need this in there anyways. So we just go over that line. We've got reconcile. So this is actually doing it for us. This is putting all missing template values into the active data. So you can either use this and it will check for any missing values, or you can do it manually and make it check for any missing values. But it really depends on your use case. So how can I make an example? So let's say you're doing an RPG game where you have classes for weapon data. You won't want to use this. If you have starting weapons, you want to manually do it. So that's where you would want to use this do something with load profile function. That's where you want to check for missing values and data and all that. Because that won't be very useful for something like that. That is optional. You can remove that line. That's up to you. But I'm gonna keep it there so I don't have to do anything in this function. So next we've got this listen to release. So this is pretty much the profile could be loaded on another Roblox server. So player kick profile has been loaded onto another server. So that's pretty much just what it means. And then we're going to set the player's data to nil. So this is in case the data is already loaded. This will remove the data from the game, so it's not accessible anymore. And then what we have here is if player is still in the game by the time the data is loaded, we want to set that player's profile to the profile table. And before that is when I'm going to do this function here. So it's just another local function, player profile. So I'm going to do it before uploading or putting the data here because I don't want any of the other modules getting access till we're finished fully loading the data, which includes this function. So otherwise player left for the so player left before the profile loaded, so that's where we want to release it. So since we've released it, I believe this will also run this code here. I'm not completely sure on how that works though. Oh, no, yeah, no mind. So since we're releasing it, we don't actually set their data into the profiles table yet. So if we release it, the table's reference, there's no reference to the table, so we don't need to worry about removing it from this profiles table. So we can just release the profile and just let them go on their way. Alright, so that's the fully load part, so that's everything we really need to do. So let's go to this do something with loaded profile. So here we've got the login times. I'm just going to add that. So this is saying I'm just going to make use of, I want the print function, please. come on, print. What I want to do is string.format. So I'm going to have a %s has logged in %s times. There we go. So what this is saying is we're going to have the player's name here. We're going to have the login time, or this specific login number here. And then this one's just time or times, depending on that number there. So here we'll do local total logins equals that one there. Maybe actually make that plus equals 1. So total logins, so we've got player.name. We've got total logins. Total logins is larger than 1 and s, or empty. So that's saying if let's say I joined for the first time, that's what's going to say. And then if I joined in a second time, it's going to add the s on the end. So that's pretty much what we're doing here with the string format. Now, you don't have to do it with the string format. You can use string concatenation using the 2 dots. But string format I find a little bit easier sometimes, like in this case. So the first one is player, so that goes there. We've got the join number, that's there. And we've got this last bit, which is this last value here. All right, now that's done. Let's have a look. Give cache, player owns the amount of cache. We're not going to do that. So now I'm going to close this since we don't need anything else from that. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to make this total game time work. So what I'm going to need is another table, local join times equals an empty table. And I'm going to on player join join times player equals tick. So when they join, I'm just going to make it equal to tick. So if I print tick now, so this is time since I think it's like the 1st November 1980 or something. But if I'm spam enter, you can see it's still incrementing by 1. So it's pretty much global time since a specific date in history. So what I can do is when they join, I record the tick. Then when they leave, I record that tick. And then we can do the leave time minus the join time. And that's the time that they've played. And then I can add it to their profile in this total game time. So this is first part, this is their join time. And then before we release their profile, what we want to do is do local duration equals tick. So the time that they're leaving minus the time that they joined. So in this case, it could be like, so if I print that one there, so that's their join time. Oh, that's their join time. So I want that on the right side. And let's say this is their leave time on the left side. You can see that this left value is bigger. So this one's at 23, this is at 32. So if I subtract that, the time between when I printed those two values was 9.04 seconds. So using that, we can determine the amount of time they've played the game, and then we can add it to their profile. So profile.data. Total game time plus equals duration. I believe it was 9.06, right? 9.04. So what we're doing there is adding our time, and we also want to set this to nil. So we do want to do this before we release the profile. If we release it and try to do this, you cannot edit data, but edit the profile once it's released. So we need to make sure we do it. So add the duration there, played to the data, and then release the profile. So I'll load it. And then I'm going to do on post profile load. I'm just going to rename the function. Let me just, there we go. Yep, I think it's good. So what we want to do is replicate only these ones for the client, which we'll do in a minute. But for now, let's test this. So I'm going to actually have to publish create game store tutorial profile service private. So for this tutorial, I won't give anyone the script. I want you to do it yourself. I've seen a lot of people trying to get lazy, and well, in some cases, people just keep misspelling stuff or they can't get it correct. But this one you should be able to get correct since it's mostly code. But if you saw in the profile, in the output before I delete it, it said spook_exe has joined one time. Let me just do it again so you can see it. Spook_exe has logged in one time. Now, here it says data will not be saved. Roblox API service unavailable. So what we need to do is enable access to Datastore. Security. Enable studio access to API services. So this is such as Datastores. Save. And then play again. So that it'll be the first load. Spook_exe has logged in one time. So Roblox API service is available. Data will be saved. Now if we rejoin, it will say 2 times. Spook_exe has logged in 2 times. So there we go. And then what we can also do is add a print to see the total game time. So here we'll add print. I want %s has played a total of this session, totaling the total to %s. So here I'm going to say like Spook_exe has played a total of 20 seconds this session, totaling the total to blank seconds. And then what I can do is player.name. So that first %s is the player's name. Second one is the duration. Third one is the total game time from the Datastore. Now, another thing I should point out is here we're doing profile.data. So that's how we access the player's data table. There is other values inside this profile, so do not overwrite the profile. Otherwise, it will say it's corrupted data and the player's data will be reset. So if we play that again, we should get a little thing in the output now when we leave, telling us how long we've played. So we've logged in for a third time, and oh whoops, oh I didn't do string.format. String.format. There we go. But yeah, so I played for 1.5 seconds and the total game time is 12.6 seconds now. What I'll do is actually print here, print this player has played a total of seconds before joining this server. So here I'm just going to say this player has played a total of something seconds before joining the server. And that's what I mean by truncation, using the 2 dots. So it's joining the string together. So if I do that, we should be able to see my time before I leave the server. So this player has played a total of 12.5999 seconds before joining the server. So we just wait a minute, and then I leave. It should add it, or add a certain duration. So there we go. So Spic has played a total of 13.8 seconds this session, totaling the total to 26.4 seconds. Now, these decimals are annoying. Let's fix it. What I'm going to do is profile.data.game equals math.floor. That total times 100. So we're going to move the decimal place to the right 2. So it'll be 2641.75512. Then we're going to math.floor it. So we'll get rid of all the decimals. So the value will be 2641. And then we're going to divide by 100 again. And then that will add the decimal back. So it'll be 26.41. And that's what we want to do for this. So actually, I should probably make a quick function for that. Local function floor floor number and return math.floor n times. So this is going to be the number and this is going to be the decimal places. So here I'm going to do number times math.power 10 to the decimal places or 2. And then I'm going to divide by math.power 10. Actually, I'll do decimal places or equals decimal places or 2. That's saying if decimal places are not given, just make it 2. Then I want to do return math.floor, the number times math.power 10 to the decimal places. Divide, so after flooring it, divide it by 10 to the decimal places. So like, if I give it 3 decimal places, I'll move it the decimal place to the right 3. So for example here, it'll be 13817. That will get floored. So all these other decimals will disappear. Then it'll redivide it. So it'll be 13.817 without any other more decimals. So what I can do now is floor number with duration. I don't need to give it a decimal places, but I will. 3. I won't worry about that. I'll do up here, I'll floor the duration. But in here is where I want to floor the duration or the total game time to 3 decimals. So remember that the more decimals you remove, the less accurate it is. But I'm gonna lose like, I don't know, milliseconds from that, or at least 1 second over a period of like 100 hours. So I don't need to worry about that. So there we go. This player has total 26.4 seconds, so it hasn't floored yet. Now it's gonna floor it. 7.3 seconds this session, totaling to 33.795 seconds. And if I rejoin, it will say 33.975. And then if I leave again, 3.49 seconds this session, totaling 37.287. And there we go. I should probably actually increase that one to 3. But yeah, there we go. So that's the server side of it. Now, if you want to like edit that data, we need to make a function here. Actually, yeah, we need to make a function here. Function module get player data. I want to pass in the player. Return profiles player. So this is saying this join times, oh, not join times, we want, wait, where is it? I think I need to set that one to now. I think I forgot a line. No, I closed it, oh well. But right here, this is, oh no, yeah, listen to it these two. So right here, what we have is, we set the player's data to nil when they leave, but we also set it to their profile when they join. So what we need to do is get player profile. So this will be accessible to other scripts. And we want to return the profiles player. So that can be nil or their data. nil or profile. So we need to check in the other scripts if it is nil or profile. And then what I also like to do is have a yield. So yield, if yield then, what I have is repeat task.wait 0.1 until players, or profile player. Actually, I'd like to do it this way. So what it does is every 0.1 seconds, it will reset the value of the profile until that profile is a value, or not player.parent. So unless the player has left or the profile is not loaded, it will keep repeating this loop. And then since profile is set up here, when we return it, it'll be either null or the profile. Now what we can do is test script. What we'll do is module. So let's do a players added. So players added. Oh, players added. Oh, player added connect. Connect function local player. That's something I do, but you can do player. Local profile equals. So we actually need to require this data service. Equals require game get service service storage. Wait for child systems. Wait for child data service. So data service get player profile the player, and we want to yield it. Otherwise, it can be nil. And we can just print the profile.data. So that's how you can access from another script or another module. Now, the only problem is when you're requiring modules, you cannot make them require recursively. So that means, let's say I have another script here, or another module script. If this one requires this one and this one requires this one, it will error and say it's recursive, so you cannot do that. But if I test this now, and I play, you can see it worked. It printed out data like we expected it to. And we've got cache, jams, login times, total game time. So what we can do now is create a local script, and we're going to have this data replicate. So I'm just going to make this simple. We're going to have a remote function here. It's going to be called get data. And up here, we're going to have everything removed except this data service, and we'll have this get the remote event. Game, get service, replicated storage. And then we want local get data remote function is replicated storage. Wait for child, get data. And then what we can do is, actually, I like to keep it neat. Make a folder, call it remotes. Put that inside it. So move that one out there and put remotes here. What we're doing is waiting for the remotes folder inside replicated storage, and we're waiting for the get data remote function. Well, actually, anything called get data inside that folder. So make sure you don't have anything else called get data in there. And what we want is on server invoke equals function local player. This could be just player in your case. I'll just keep it like that. But this is saying when the client invokes server, we want to return a value. So what we want to return is get player profile player. So if we just run back here, get player profile the player, and it yields. We don't want it to yield. You don't have to put false here, but you can. I'm just going to keep it there. And what we actually need to do is local profile equals that. And here I'm going to return nil. So we're going to do if profile then return profile.data. Now it's important that you don't return the profile itself. You want to return the data of the profile. So that's the player's data, which is this table here. Now, in some case where you want to delete these two values, for example, from the data, you have to deep copy the table using a function of some sort. And only then can you edit that table and remove whatever you don't want. I'm not going to show that here. We're just going to send the whole thing to the client. So any data they've got, we'll send it to the client. Now, we need to create the local script. So this is get data. And then what we can do, local active data equals nil. So this coroutine wrap function, what this does is makes a new thread. And we're going to have a loop inside that thread every 1 second that gets the player's data. And here, I'm just going to get that remote again. You can copy it from the other script if you want. Just copy that one. Actually, you need both of these when you do that. You can copy them there. And what we want is active data equals get data remote function, invoke server. So we just want to invoke the server. We're sending nothing to the server. If, let's say you send some key, so let's say you send, for example, this, that will be the first argument. But you still need to check if that argument is nil. If it's nil, just ignore the player or whatever. Fine. And value is equal to that. So let's say you do something like this. So they need a specific value to get their data. You can do that. But exploiters can see this. They can see anything that goes between remote events and remote functions. So there's really no point in doing it. So there we go. So this is getting the data. And then what we can do is print active data. So every 1 second, we'll have this local script print the data. And you can do that for every script there too. So you can see nil 3 times at the start, but now it's actually printing each table. So there we go. So that's working now. You can have like, I don't know, you could probably have like a binary event. So when that binary event is fired, you update all your other scripts, or you can just have every script update every second. But that's up to you. The rest of it is up to you, but that's how you use pretty much the basics of ProfileService and replicating the data. What I'm going to do quickly is create a screen GUI to display your game time, or everything about your data. So here I'm going to make a interface, and make sure I ignore GUI inset, so that's like the top bar. I'm going to put a label, and actually I'll make it like 0.3, 0.3. You can make it look like whatever. I'm just going to have this in the corner here. And it's just going to be super long string. And what I'm going to do is get that inside here. So one thing to note when doing GUIs, you need to get the local player. Game gets those players. Local player equals players.local player. So local player is what contains your player GUI, which is where this data of this interface is stored. You don't want to edit the starter GUI. I've seen so many people do that. You do not want to edit the starter GUI. You want to edit inside the players, local player GUI. So what we can do now is local player. Actually, I need the HTTP service. So what we're going to be using is the JSON encode, and that will convert the table to a string. So what we want to do is, where is it? Local player dot play GUI. Actually, make a variable for it. Local interface equals local player dot play GUI local child interface. So we're waiting for this interface to appear. And then what we can do is interface dot label dot text equals data colon, that's up to you. And then I want to do 2 dots and HTTP service JSON encode the active data. Now, obviously, we want to check this active data is nil or not. So I'm going to use a ternary operator, active data and JSON encoded, or no data. So this is like a mini if statement, but in one line. So this is saying if active data then else. And then it will do equals. So if there is active data, it will do that. Otherwise, it will do no data, like that. So that's what it's doing for the users that don't know what a ternary is, but we're doing it in one line. There we go, and I won't need that anymore because we can just look at it there. So if I play now, there we go. So now we've got our data in terms of a string, and we can put that string as label. So cache, gems, login times, and our total login. So if we take a quick snippet of this, and let's verify that it updates every time we rejoin, like all the new values. So we can see game time from 53 to 68, and login times was previously 9, now it's 10. So it does update. And yeah, that concludes this tutorial. If you do want to edit data, you just pretty much do this here. So like you do get player profile, and then you do profile.data.cache plus equals whatever. Actually, I could have done that here. Plus equals 5. So if I just play this now, what will happen is every time we request the data, it will increase our cache by 5. So right now there's no data, and then there's data. So you can see our cache is increasing by 5 every time we request the data. So that's how you edit the data. You just have to get the data on the server side, edit it, and then it will automatically send to the client if you got something like this. But yeah, hopefully that's been really helpful with setting up this. Let me know what you create maybe. If you see me on Discord, say hi, whatever. And yeah, that's the tutorial.